All right, in this unit, we're going to be focusing on the 7 major land or terrestrial biomes on the planet. We're going to kind of start towards the north and around the North Pole, work our way south, looking at these 7 major land biomes, some of the characteristics of each, maybe some plant animal life that you can find in each, and then maybe even how much land area they cover on the planet. So before we get rolling, let's look at some basic terminology. You know what a biome is. It's a large area of land that is going to be classified by its not only the type of organisms, plant and animal organisms that live there, but its climate. So climate is really the indicator that's going to classify which biome is which. Climate and temperature are related, but they are different. Climate is going to be large scale temperature and precipitation and air pressure, humidity, the amount of solar energy that reaches an area over a long period of time. And that's going to be your climate. It doesn't change very much. Climate is going to be really stable. For your temperature is going to change day to day, month to month, season to season. So temperature is going to be more narrow in scope, and then your climate is going to be more broad. All right, a little bit more on climate. 3 major factors that affect our climate. The tilt of the Earth is going to cause solar energy to have an impact. The amount of solar energy that reaches the Earth in different places because of the tilt and the Earth's rotation around the sun is going to cause different amounts of solar energy to reach the Earth in different places, so that's going to have an impact. Our air and ocean currents move in different ways and have an impact on what they bring to these different areas. Sometimes a lot of wind, sometimes a lot of nutrients for the water, sometimes not much nutrients or not many nutrients, so the air and ocean currents. And then obviously topography, the lay of the land, whether it be mountains or valleys, the soil that's built into the topography. All of those 3 major factors are going to have the biggest influence on making our climates and giving us this breakdown of these different land biomes. Okay, so here are the 7. We're going to start with the north and work our way south. So tundra, the taiga, the deciduous biome, grassland, desert, hot deserts. The tundra can be considered a cold desert, so we're looking at our hot deserts close to the equator, and then our different rainforests, and then the Antarctic is where we'll finish off. So let's go ahead and jump right in, looking at the tundra, starting at the north. Okay, up in the tundra, you have no tree life, one of the harshest environments on the planet. This is going to be considered a cold desert. The desert biomes are the harshest biomes as far as the harshest weather and environmental conditions. The tundra is going to be the cold desert. You have little to no rainfall. You have very long winter, long nights, not a lot of sunlight, very short summers, very, very high altitudes. You're looking at no tree life, a little bit of grass during the spring and summertime, a little bit of scrub life. You have very well adapted animals that live here. They're adapted to blend into the environment, to survive the cold, harsh conditions. Your Arctic foxes and wolves, your caribou, different birds like the snow geese and the snowy owl that frequent this area. Certain insects during the summertime. These animals are always on the move to try to find food because of the conditions. There's not a lot of food available in any one place when they're looking at the tundra. If you move a little bit further south, start moving south, still cold conditions, but we're moving away from the northern pole of the planet, getting a little bit more direct sunlight. You're going to reach the taiga or the coniferous forests. The taiga is going to be characterized by the tree life that is here, and it's all going to be conifer trees. Now, the reason the coniferous trees do so well here is they're adapted. They've got adaptations like everything. Every living organism that's in its particular biome. The coniferous trees, they're photosynthetic year-round. They're always green. They're able to do this because they have a type of substance in their leaves called resin. Resin is kind of like an antifreeze that keeps their leaves from freezing, so they're able to use less energy maintain a normal energy flow and still be able to grow through photosynthesis year round. Types of animals like the moose and elk, different types of elk, deer elk, bull elk, your snow hares, and different types of cats like the lynx and the snow leopard. Those are some animals. Some different types of squirrels. Birds will also frequent this area. More hardy birds, more carnivorous birds will frequent this area. And this is where your tree life starts from the tundra when you're moving south. All right, continuing south, and we get to the biomes that we're more frequent or we're more familiar with. We live in this particular biome. There's other biomes close by. We'll look at those in a minute, but we're part of the temperate forest biome. This biome is characterized by the types of trees again, and there are trees that lose their leaves, the deciduous trees. Remember from biology, we kind of just looked at coniferous trees. Your deciduous trees lose their leaves. They do this to conserve energy. They kind of hibernate depending on the conditions. When it starts to get cold, it takes too much energy to still maintain photosynthesis. So trees in the deciduous forest, in the temperate biome, go through photosynthesis very quickly, very rapidly, and a very high rate during the spring and summertime, and then they cut it off to conserve energy during the fall and winter. And so that's why trees lose their leaves. There's no reason providing energy for those leaves if they're not going to use them. They're going to conserve energy, so that's why leaves fall during the autumn. Certain times in the summertime, depending on where you're at in this biome, it can get really, really hot, and they cut off leaves, energy to leaves as well. This biome is going to be characterized by very big biodiverse amount of songbirds, different types of animals, bear, deer, certain cats like the bobcat, mountain lion, coyotes, squirrels, voles, depending on different types of rabbits. So you have a very large, diverse type of animal life too. Different types of trees from oak and maple, ash, sycamore. Those are going to be just a few of the different biodiverse tree life that you can find in this particular biome. All right, moving on. So we are also going to have some grassland biome in our area as well. And in the grasslands, you still have rainfall, but not enough to support tree life, so you don't have very much trees. You can have periods of drought. There's different areas on the planet where you can find grasslands. The U.S., we call our grasslands prairies. Places like, say, Africa, they're going to be called savannas. Tibet, you'll have steppes, and there's also pampas that you can find. There's different types of grasslands depending on where you're located. For our grasslands, you have gazelle, pronghorns, you got bison, you've got ground squirrels, other like the savanna. We are very familiar with the savanna animals, the lions, the giraffe, wildebeest, zebra, just to name a few. Okay, continuing south, closer to the equator. Here is our other type of desert. And tundra was the cold desert. Here are our hot deserts. Once again, harshest environments on the planet. These cover about 30% of the Earth's land area, dominated by little to no plant life, little to no rainfall. Reptiles are the dominant animals in this particular area. They can survive these harsh conditions, these heat conditions. They can burrow if they get too hot. The topography is very different from anywhere else. The soil is very dry and baked, and so it has this sandy texture to it. The rainforest, most biodiverse biome on the planet. Only about 2% of the land is covered by rainforest. However, this is the most biodiverse, a large number of different species of trees and animal life, characterized by the different primates, depending on what rainforest you're looking at, the different frogs, the birds of paradise, the colorful birds. Rains almost every day, very humid. 20% of the Earth's fresh water is going to be found in the rainforest and filtered through the rainforest. Very important as a result of that. Okay, the last biome looking at the very bottom southern part of the planet, we're looking at the Arctic. The Arctic biome, coldest, driest, windiest part of the planet. It holds about 70% of the world's fresh water. Okay, all of it is in a large, very thick block of ice. Characteristics are going to be determined by obviously the amount of solar energy, but also air and wind currents. The different ocean currents will bring about different animals, marine animals.
Students and staff, please remember to join.
It's also characterized by penguins, your emperor penguins, for example, staple species for this particular area. The different types of whales will visit the waters in this area during different types of the year when nutrients are brought around. These waters are also going to be used for mating rituals, mating purposes for some of the whales as well. They'll frequent here after they've eaten, maybe up in the north. They'll move down to these waters, the Arctic Ocean, for those purposes to raise their young and that type of thing. Okay, let's briefly talk a little bit more about these habitats. We'll get into these topics a little bit more detail later, but habitat destruction is a really big issue with our land biomes. Obviously what it means is when you have habitat destruction occurring, it is rendering those habitats or habitats in those biomes useless because they're unable to support the species, the plant and animals that naturally or that are native to that particular area. Okay, this is obviously caused by normal climate processes, but the big push is by humans, human involvement through farming, building of cities, neighborhoods, agricultural reasons. Those are having a major impact. Deforestation, desertification. Those are big examples of how our biomes, our habitats are being destroyed, and it's all due to our use. We have a very, very large population on this planet, and we're trying to feed the population, we're trying to house the population, trying to make money, because obviously the money is what our population evolves around, and so we have to have space for this. The big impacts are going to be agriculture and farming through crops and then through animals, our food processes in essence. And it's causing things like desertification and deforestation as a result of that. But like I said, we'll get into those topics in a little more detail as we go on throughout the year. Habitat loss is also big. Okay, if you look at other places besides here in the U.S., let's focus on, for example, the tropical rainforests. 50% of the rainforests that originally existed before the human population encroached on those particular habitats, 50% are gone. Okay, they're not going to come back unless we leave those areas, and that's not going to happen. Once again, the more a population grows, we've got to spread, and we're going to encroach on those areas. We are the only species on the planet that does not follow Mother Nature's rule of being kept at a normal balance with nature, with what is available to be held by our population. We exceed that. We make sure that our population continues to grow and grow and grow, and it's not balanced out by other things like disease and lack of food. The being in balance with nature, the survival of the fittest, all of those terms, where every other organism on the planet is in balance with nature, we are not, and so these things are happening. The biggest hit, say for example, on rainforests is due to deforestation, making room for croplands and agriculture and using the forest for commercial processes. Once again, we'll get into this as well as we move on throughout the year.